Grand, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to Volak, Pat, Liam have been looking after me. I've been scrambled all week and I'm going to scramble your heads now. It's the middle of the afternoon. We've got, I'm going to put 1 hour into 15 minutes. And so we're going to have a few home rules here. Don't bother looking at my notes. They are nothing to do with my presentation. They're just for you to take home and remind you what we said here. Also, when there's words on the slide, I presume most of you can read. So just read the slides, and I'll use this pointy thing to sort of point at. And of course, this is the thing, we've got 2 slides. That's always a bit of a laugh, but here we go. Thank you very much. Now, you've had some fabulous stuff. It was maybe pretty heavy on your heads about this nutrition business and a bit of programming, and there's all the genetic stuff. And you throw it all together, and then there's a few messages. Yeah, well, it's 50% of the heifers kind of don't make it, and there's another 25% here, don't go there. And the growth rates are kind of sort of waddy, and I wonder what the hell's going on here. Well, I have a message for you all, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk about it. So here we go. It's to do with the environment. That other bit that sort of kind of came into the thing. Can I make this thing work? Okay, that's all you need to remember. Because actually, whether you think you want me to talk about your current environmental situation or new builds of calving houses, we don't have time to do that today, but you actually only have to remember 5 things. The first one is hygiene. I'm going to give you 2 slides of hygiene, and I am not going to be very polite about it. The other things here, though, is that in terms of the physiology of the animal, this is what completely stuns me about the dairy sector. You are the only livestock sector that does not address the physiological requirements, nearly got that wrong, the physiological requirements of a calf. It's been completely ignored, and so this is what you do, and you wonder why they don't grow very fast. And I'm going to touch on that. We don't have a lot of time. We are talking about an animal with an immature immune system, with an immature defense mechanisms to the respiratory system from the nose all the way down to the alveoli. And we're in Ireland. Things are looking dodgy now. February. Yeah, I bet it's nice here in February, isn't it? Sunshine, grass growing. We just heard about the green grass. It's going to be bloody lovely on Friday. Right. The deal is you go home and all you need to take home. It doesn't matter what it looks like. You need to consider 4 things after hygiene. And I'm going to hit you with hygiene. 4 things, and it's really quite simple. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's to do with airspeed. It's the #1 physiological factor, especially if you happen to be dealing with an animal that is in nutritionally a bit of a problem. We've heard a bit about that this morning. It's also a bit wet because you've grabbed it and apparently you're not going to dry it. That's not a very good idea, people. There's a wee message for you. If you grab calves, dry the bloody things off because they are going to be freezing. Airspeed, #1 physiological impact, is called a draft. #2, moisture. You will not get on top of respiratory disease in spite of all the vaccines and in spite of all the top quality antibiotics you have now compared with 30 years ago until you get on top of moisture. Where am I? Ireland, February. Okay, we'll come to that one in a minute. Moisture. We have to dry the job up. We have learnt this with poultry, we have learnt this with pigs, we have not learnt it with dairy calves. Good thing I speak like this on purpose because I don't have much time, but there is a deal, there's a reason here. This is all very doable. The nice thing is if you're not going to have a lot of surplus cash over the next 12 months, spend it on these young guys because they will pay you back. The third thing, fresh air. I spent a lot of time working for SAC on respiratory diseases in cattle, pigs, and even humans, stockmen. I loved it. Right? Fresh air. Absolutely. We've got loads of it, but we get it wrong. And the final thing here is temperature. I'm going to roll that all together and see how quick a job I can do to keep us back on time. Hygiene. We talked about it. You got the show this morning. There was 1 slide, and this is what we do, and you all go, yeah, that's fine, hygiene, yeah, just get on with it. The hygiene is crap. And I'm sorry if you don't like the way I talk, but the figures state, I don't have time. You've had the figures. The mortality, the morbidity, there's lots of scope there, and one of the things about it is that the way we run our systems is weak on hygiene. It's very simple. I don't have time to do this, which is a real shame, because with a big audience like this, it would be an absolute crack, right? I'll do it anyway. Okay, here you go. Stick your hands in the air. This is a test. Stick the hands in the air if you're absolutely confident that the calf pen facilities back on your farm is cleanable. Now, before you do it, the deal here is I'm not asking you whether you work hard and clean it. You all do that, I know. I've heard the stories about what a good job you do. I am asking you whether these buildings are physically cleanable. Right, stick your hands in the air if that's the case. Come on. Aha! I've got one or two kind of shaky hand bits. Well, that's it. That's putting your hand in the air. Am I sweating? Don't know. Right, that is, yes, I can do it. Now, the point about this is I'm just making a point, that's all. I actually think you've got a very difficult job. I think most of the calf house facilities I go and visit, and I'm a scientist, and I'm also a bit of a bastard, because I've had enough. I'm sick and tired of being pulled onto places. We're having a laugh here, aren't we? Okay. I don't mean to be rude, I just mean it to communicate. The deal here is that if you have, you can imagine Scotland is pretty good. You're all right, we are the dogs, what's it? We're keeping calves in buildings that are 200 years old, made of granite. Stones piled up on top of each other with bits of mortar between it. You can't clean that, however hard you work. That's my point. Right, let's just be more intelligent. We need to put plaster on the walls, we need to put plastic on the walls, we need to make your job easier. Somebody had a question this morning about time and labor and farmer health. Make it easier for yourselves. Get some decent paint on the walls so that when you go in there, you spend time cleaning it, it's an effective technical job. And then speak to the vets and make sure that you're using the right disinfectant. Up the game. The brilliant thing about it is the money and the energy you're spending already will go into growth as opposed to fighting the background commensals of the bacteria that are lying around in the calf facilities. There's lots of work. I'm sorry I don't have time to put the science behind that, but it's there. Don't worry about it. Right. The last, just a quick one here, clean energy. It's been mentioned, so I'm going to run straight past it, but the point is this milk stuff is pretty valuable. And I don't have time to paint the picture of the reality I see of milk lying around in buckets with flies doing the breaststroke in it, but shit lying around on top. And we've talked about the bacterial and BCFUs. There's no excuse. And I've put this slide up especially for Liam, who's looked after me more week. He says, don't put the price up, because it's the wrong price. I said, all right, I'll just make it up. 5,500 quid. If you remember what you've been told this morning, that if you're going to make an extra 400 euros per heifer cow in first lactation and then second lactation in terms of giving it a good start in life, it doesn't take many calves to have to go through being fed by that thing before you get return on investment. That's what it's called. It's return on investment. It's not cost, it's return on investment. Okay. Last one thing, although the way I work it all out is it's called thermal dynamics. It's the energy. Where's all the energy going in these systems that we have? And another thing you maybe or maybe do not know is that the calf is the one animal on your farm that has it's incapable of correctly thermoregulating itself. Okay? It's another fact, along with the immature immune system and the incomplete defense of its respiratory tract. It doesn't do the dodgy temperature bit very well. You read it, there's the words up there. Basically, it's expensive. The calf has to spend extra energy to adjust its body to keeping itself in homeostasis. And of course, there it is. You all know a little thing. All that is up there is saying that basically we have a calf that's got a small engine. Obviously, that one's growing a bit. That's a week old or whatever. It's shifting towards doubling its body weight in 4 weeks, whatever your target is. Doesn't matter. It's got a small body weight. That's its surface area. So in terms of the ratio between the engine, keeping it warm, and the surface, which is exposed to the rest of the world, it's worse off compared with any other animal on your farm. It is not in a good energy thermal situation. Right. So here we go. There's the background. I've got these 4 points to cover. Airspeed is a draft. All animals, all mammals have what's called a lower critical temperature. It's a temperature below which you have to burn additional energy to keep warm. So if you've all enjoyed that nice lunch, thank you Volak for that nice lunch, you are now creating energy within yourself, digesting that food. And depending on what you eat, the amount of energy that you have to keep you warm it goes up or down or whatever, but a baby calf is eating an extremely digestible diet, so it doesn't actually automatically create a lot of energy inside itself to keep itself warm. We drop below an ambient temperature, when the ambient temperature goes below 15 degrees centigrade, for example, which I use as a general figure. So over in the UK, until a few years ago, farmers didn't seem to think that calves are animals that got cold. Yes, they bloody well do. So an average figure for lower critical temperature, different breeds, everything goes up and down, but just start with me, we've got 15 degrees centigrade. That means that every calf born in the United Kingdom and Ireland between October and maybe Easter is born into an environment where it is physiologically cold, and therefore has to start dumping energy into keeping itself warm that previously would have gone into growth. Number one. Number two is to do with stress. We can all deal with a little bit of stress. The problem with stress is duration. So if an animal is actually cold for 12 hours and then 24 hours and then 36 hours, the first thing that will happen is not only will it slow down its growth rate, but its immune function, which isn't very good in the first place, will start to be depressed. And we wonder why they get lots of scours from all the bacteria lying around in your calf houses. This is how it works. It's just simple physiology, okay? How this goes here, what we want is a building with an air. We've got to have air movement because we've got to have fresh air. We've got to have air movement. We've got to get the dirty air out and the fresh air in. So we design buildings to have an airspeed of 0.2 meters per second, so a newborn animal, its lower critical temperature of 15 degrees centigrade. If you put it in a draft of 2 meters per second, I like a roving mic, me. That's 2 meters per second. The average wind speed in this country is probably just below 5. It's not much of a draft at all, but its lower critical temperature under those conditions goes up by 9 degrees centigrade. Which means, because of the way we manage the animal, the food hasn't changed, the calf hasn't changed, but we've changed the probability that that animal is going to be in energy deficit, purely because we've put it in a draft. And 2 meters per second isn't very much at all. I don't have time, I had to pull some slides out. The next thing that makes it damp is, damp gave that away, makes it cold and lowers its lower critical temperature, is put it on a damp bed. Because obviously you lie on a damp bed, you increase the rate of heat loss to the surfaces around you. And you can go from there, 15 degrees centigrade, put it in a draft, it's now going to be feeling cold at any air temperature below 24, stick it on a damp bed, you add another 6 degrees on top. You continually, it's all to do with the rate of energy. Where's the energy go? The energy loss, wind, energy loss, damp. That's how we need to manage our environments better. Moisture. So that's the airspeed. I've done airspeed. I've got 4 minutes left. We go on to moisture. Moisture. Now, it's the opposite of what we need. In our calf house systems, we must get them dry. Because most of the bacteria and viruses we're interested in don't like surviving in dry conditions. No point talking about dryness in the cubicle house because there's a lot of liquid flowing out the back end. And the only way you can stop that is to shoot them. Not very productive, okay? But your calf housing, it needs to be dry. Oh, well, yeah, but it's always been like this. Of course it will always be like this. If you don't fix the gutters in the floor, start with the floor. Don't expect the ventilation to sort it out. Start with the floor. You need to get the moisture under control. Number one, because it's dirty stuff. And all this tackety, we'll just go through here, will we? Let's go and see the heifers and see how they're getting on. And we'll just take all this stuff with us. We'll just give it a good bloody rub. I want a dry floor. This is not, am I being unreasonable in 2015? Come on. I've got a response there. Pretty good. Right, so we do all the easy things. Do all the easy things. I don't do difficult. The difficult's what you do before you get here. Sort the floors. If a floor doesn't drain today, I tell you what, it ain't going to drain tomorrow either. If water comes down the hill and runs into a building, put a sleeping policeman up. Put a live policeman up. That's an even better idea. No, put a sleeping policeman. Keep the moisture out of the building. Drinkers that don't work. Here's another one, we'll do this because it's such good fun. right? Stick your hands in the air if you know that all your gutters and downpipes at home are sorted. That's a Glaswegian expression. You're sorted. Come on. All your gutters and downpipes at home sorted. Ah, yeah. That's pretty good. None out of 300 or however many yet. Now, please come with me on this one. I've never honestly had more than 2 people say yeah. But you get this stuff called plastic guttering, right? You get it in juice and it's not very expensive, but the volumes of water in your climate are enormous. You need to keep this as a tighter, drier facility. The numbers are in that notes bit. Don't worry about it. So the other thing and last thing about moisture, so it's dirty, it goes all over the place, it fills your slurry tank, clean drinking water off the roof, down into the shan in the yard and in a tank, and then you have to spend slurry in January. That's not legal, by the way, but never mind. That's how it works. But the other thing, of course, is that it's cold. It's cold stuff, moisture. Very simple. I'll do this and I've got to keep moving. 2 rooms at 5 degrees centigrade. One is dry and one is damp. Which one feels colder? They're obviously both the same temperature, but one feels colder than the other, doesn't it? It's to do with where the rate of energy loss again. A damp, a dry. That's how it works. You're spending money, you're talking about balances of amino acids to go into the next generation of dairy diets that will cost you 2,500 euros a tonne. And I'm looking at your calf houses and going, I'm not sure you guys have got the balance right here. It's easy, okay? It is easy if you want to do it. It's an attitude thing. Yeah, and I think we're going there. The care for the calf is going to pay you back. It's cold stuff. And of course, the calves lie down. We've got all the numbers, 80%. Of course, the sick calf lies down longer. So it's already in energy deficit because it's sick, it doesn't eat so much, its lower critical temperature's gone up and up and up, and you put it on a damp bed. Come on, we'll just keep moving on that stuff. It's not very good. Interestingly to me, that I approached Volac a few years ago when I discovered what was going on in southwest Scotland in the use of antibiotics, very closely linked to the use of automatic calf machines. And I'm going, ooh. Very easy then, of course, what happens is the automatic calf machines get a blackened name. No, that's not the point. The point is they're used inappropriately. And one of the key issues with the calf machine, not the only one, but one of the key issues is loss of control of moisture in the locality of the machine. You've got 20 calves on 20 buckets, and then you put 20 calves on one machine. It's not surprising. You've altered the odds on the whole epidemiology of what's going on inside that room. We need to keep it dry. Because we know that 2/3 of the urine are going to be deposited near the machine, get the drainage right. Give them some water, that's another story here. Right, here we go, fresh air. Is that fresh air? Those young calves on buckets got fresh air? I'll just be quick because we need to move the job on. The answer is no, because it's next to older animals. And one of the big things we're doing over in the UK and getting seriously wrong is because the man will sell you a bigger building, just give you an 80-foot shed by 60-foot wide, you just put stuff in there. Problem is you almost inevitably just created a system that will end up with a mixture of air, animal ages. That doesn't work. It's never going to work. So we need to be careful. That is not fresh air. The other thing, a last bit of science up here, and I've shown this for years. The thing also about fresh air, the fresh air is our ventilation system. Yep, through it comes, gets rid of the stuff. What you don't know about fresh air, probably, and I'm not sure even the vets are taught this, is to do with aerobiology, but fresh air is very good at killing stuff. And this is work done by a guy called Christopher Cox, Porton Down, military money, R&D, and what he was doing was releasing respiratory bacteria and viruses into the air and seeing how long they survived. So there's a bit of coughing going on in here. I've moved over by the door, you notice. I was sitting over there by the people chatting. I moved over there, right? There's a ventilation system running. As soon as that ventilation stops running, I'll be out of this bloody room because we'll be running out of this stuff. Fresh air. And what is this? This is showing you, this is viruses, okay? And this is the survival rate. It's a logarithmic scale, don't worry about that. That's 10%, so 50% is about up here. And what it's saying is that the viruses that were released in open air the dotted line, within 6 minutes, they were all dead. Whereas the same, not obviously the same population, but equivalent population of the same virus, when left to survive in enclosed air, they're actually, after the same period, you've got 60, 70% of them are still alive. Do you think this is important? That's all it's about. The whole business of health and animals is very seldom to do with everything's fine and then suddenly a bacteria arrives from outer space. Oh my God, bang, a disease. No. What's normally going on is you have the presence of some of the pathogens, and what changes the amount of pathogens on your farm are things like stocking density and cleaning, and then one animal gets sick and then it starts shedding a lot of thousands and thousands of viable particles, and the whole thing starts to then go belly up. Fresh air, good stuff, you need it throughout the buildings. How does it get there? Well, you can do a bit of this, but we need to understand our buildings are predominantly ventilated by the wind. Yep, that's how it works. And you can use weather data. We used to use weather data in the location and orientation of big poultry sites, because the amount of wind involved is enormous. Enormous? What kind of word is that? I just made it up. Never mind. Right. The thing about it is, again, is you just need to pay attention to what's going on, because, yeah, where's the wind come from? Well, it mostly comes from over there. And what this diagram is showing you, that actually there's north, south, you can all read it, so I'm repeating myself here, but this is scale, that's 2%, 4%, 6%, 8%, 10%, 15% at the time. And this is the direction from which it comes. So you can see that, 12% of the time it's coming from, there's another 12%, so it's predominantly coming from the west and southwest. But the important thing to remember is if you look at that, you'll see that it also comes from approximately at least 4 or 5% of the time from other angles of the clock. And if you remember the importance of airspeed, have I done airspeed yet? I can't remember. Maybe I haven't. Yes, I have. Okay? That you need to understand, you need the ventilation because you need the fresh air to kill the bugs and get rid of all the rubbish. And this is a problem we have, particularly in Scotland and Ireland. What you do frequently is you build buildings with solid walls to keep the wind off them, as a result of which you don't have any fresh air floating around inside, or not enough. So we need to understand that better. This is just a quick one. So when the wind doesn't blow, what ventilates our buildings? Well, my boss, a guy called Dr. Jim Bruce, published internationally accepted years and years and years ago, brilliant stuff, is the theory of the stack effect. How you design a building, and we could do it in here, no problem at all. We've got X hundred people in here. I know what you ate for lunch. I run it through a computer. I know how much energy is going to be generated by the heat of digestion. That energy is going to go into the hot air. And if I have a big enough hole in the roof, there's it going. Hot air rises. What I'm showing on the graph here is actually three traces of ambient air, of air temperature. One inside a calf house and the other two on the inside. And the one on the outside is actually is the blue one. And you'll see that actually my point is about this is you cannot have a stack effect in most calf house systems because you don't create an accumulation of energy, and therefore you cannot have a stack effect, okay? It's very simple. If you don't have a stack effect and you don't have any wind at that period of time either, how about still stagnant days? How do your farms work on respiratory diseases after a period of still stagnant days? Is this ringing any bells? So what's happened? You can't have a stack effect in a calf house because you don't have an accumulation of energy. So what are we going to have to do? I need to come back to that. You need to stick a fan in. I'm back to energy again. Energy in here, energy out there, but if it doesn't work, we maybe need to add a bit of energy. You need a fan, which is on the end there, and a tube with holes in. That is not what you need, because when you stick I've got a fan in a chicken shed. It's all right, stick it on the wall up here, put the fan up here, okay, it's all looking good, and it blows up, and you look, oh, this is nice, isn't it? You stand around and you go, yeah, good job. Fresh air is my design requirement. The air might be sort of coming in from outside clean, but by the time it's blown across you guys, it will pick up a bit of heat and moisture and a bit of whatever. By the time it blows over there, runs out 60 feet at a time, it will dump all the bacteria and all the viruses over there. You do not have a fan without a duct, not for young calves. So, so that's that bit. I think as well we've got a lot of work to do. This starts to get a bit complicated. I've given you two references in my notes, but actually the whole business of how big a hole needs to be in the roof of a building and how big the holes need to be in the side of the building, they're in my notes. I'm not going to go there, apart from saying I know where I am, but Chaggers have been recommended this kind of stuff in the sidewall, and it ain't good enough. It's a very disappointing thing to fall, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about it, but it's based on the laws of physics and thermodynamics. It's not guesswork. But generally what we need is a bit of a hole in the roof, and we need a porous cladding on the sidewall, and we need to get it right. So I'm on the final hall. We need to conserve energy. The calf jackets, I'd been waiting for years to test the hypothesis that calves are cold. I got a woman in Derbyshire to make them handmade for me to my specification, and we did 3 trials on farms, and it proved, the hypothesis is cold. We doubled the growth rate of calves that were sick. I hate doing farm trials on commercial facilities because everything goes wrong. And in another farm where the heifer calves were growing at 940 grams average in a group, first week of life, from 11,500 pedigree Holsteins. So this fits in exactly what we've been hearing earlier on. There is no trouble getting these growth rates. This is on a commercial farm south of Aberdeen in November. It's bloody freezing. And in the first week of life, the average of the group was 940 grams a day. Not the best, the average. The ones that had, actually this one, this is where we started off. We were adding energy. That's all I'm doing. I'm adding energy. The ones with the added heaters, they were growing just over 1,050 grams a day average first week of life. That proves to me the hypothesis that even though they had a fantastic diet and growth rate, they were having to dump energy to keep themselves warm. So I'm going to finish off with that. I think our systems are problematic. There's an old look at the materials. What are we doing here with an animal that is naive, fighting the world, missing its mum, in Scotland, and we stick it in this. It's steel and concrete, which of course are both known for their thermal properties of being nice and cozy. Yeah, there's a modern one. I mean, the reason I speak the way I do is because someone spent a huge amount of money on that kind of thing. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And I'm going, this building is an experimental building I put up with another guy down in Cheshire. The structure cost me 2,000 quid, and it's takes 60 calves. I'm going, why don't we use plastics? It's cleanable, it's thermally sensible, and it's not particularly expensive. They're so cheap he bought 2, which means he's always got one where he's got the batch of calves out and is able to clean it properly and dry it properly. It's very simple. Holman Lau Igloo, that's the only system that I can recommend, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it to anybody. It's the only system I can recommend because it's the only system I've measured an increase in air temperature between the inside and outside, and therefore it can ventilate itself. But they need to be done carefully. That was the first one that came into the UK. Interesting enough, there's a young couple who had previously gone into business by running a broiler farm, so they approached calf rearing with a broiler farm mentality. Look at this, they are buying calves out of the market, batches of 160. Look at the growth rate, just under a kilogram a day. Mortality, 1% of calves from the market. It's very, very doable, but the whole system has to work. Plastics from Northern Europe, we need more plastics in there, it's more sensible. I've given up completely and gone to an architect and said, look, just design me a building by our spec, because I know that's what you're going to ask me. What's the new building's going to look like? And I'll tell you what, it isn't going to cost 70,000 euros either. We need to be more practical, more sensible, and accept the demands of the physiology of a young animal. It's only a few weeks that we've got to be precious with it, but you heard all the evidence this morning that if you get the first bit right, it'll be right forever. Thank you very much.